ever since I made that video about reorganizing, refreshing, revamping, not having like a community of black women like who are entrepreneurs, because it is lonely. I'm not saying I don't have a community of women. I do get to talk to women, but it's not the same if you're not an entrepreneur, because it's lonely. It's not the same that someone's going to say, hey, have you ever tried this thing about learning bookkeeping, or how to pay the taxes, or what is the outcome if you don't meet the requirements of a grant that you get, or even how to write grants. It can be a bit lonely because one doesn't have those things. I would like to learn from a specific group of people that have the same kind of experience dealing with organizations like foundations where you're asking for grants and these kinds of things. I need to deal with those kinds of people. And ever since I did that, I put that up, I also have a video of signs, seeing the signs, putting something out in the world, and then something happens. And something happened. I came across a group of women who are small podcasters and small YouTubers who are also entrepreneurs. And I'm just really, it's an online thing, and I don't really do good with online, but I've been putting myself out there if you haven't noticed. So I'm really trying to and looking forward to participating in the group. There's only 100 women right now, which is really nice. And the person who runs the group is like, it's 100 people. This is fantastic. Let's start talking. And there's been some conversations on brainstorming of how you can, sorry, I'm making my breakfast. How you can utilize your podcast or your YouTube channel to raise revenue. Sometimes I feel isolated because I could be in this group here. A lot of the women are independent authors. They make healthcare products like balm baths and oils and lotions. Some of them do hair and make things for like natural hair and those kinds of things. And a lot of times I feel out of place because I may sometimes only be the one that is dealing with an LGBTQ community. Those are my people. And also dealing with when it comes to sex and leather and kink. Sometimes I'm the only ones in those spaces, which is very odd because because not only to pay black and brown presenters, but also because we've known that feeling of only being the only kind in a room, which is bananas. So I feel odd and sometimes out of place with things like that because I put it out there before in groups, and I'm not going to say it wasn't well received, but it was very much, you knew when people move away from you, when you're like, oh, people are like that. And we can all be black and we can all be women and still get the same kind of reaction. And let me say this. The reason why I know it wasn't really like my imagination is because in the beginning of that group that I had joined, the women were very talkative and were throwing out ideas, and I was like, I'm feeling safe. Let me say something and put up my website, the BLX website, blx.education. Let me put mine up. And then a few days later, what happened was one of the people that usually say, good morning, sisters, I hope you're having a blessed day. Good morning, it's time to build and do these things. One of them put up something about God, it was a Bible verse, and all of this. And I was like, oh, okay. Because I'm not. I can still be in the same place with someone who believes in God and Jesus, and I won't like burst into flames. But then I noticed it started happening a lot right after I posted. Now I could be like, Raven, you bugging. No, it didn't. But it did, because I went back. And everybody else who did an introduction or said something about their business, it was like, good for you, we're here to support each other. But the post after I posted what I do with my nonprofit, it became about God. And so I stopped posting. And some time went by, and the posts went back to the way they were. With the whole giving suggestions, and I can still stay there and get suggestions and stuff like that, but I'm really not a part of the community in that way. So when I can't, it's funny because it seems like recently I can't stand in my truth. I can't stand, you know what I'm saying? I can't stand in my truth and do and or say a thing without stuff happening. And because I thought, again, I might be bugging, after that time passed and things seemed to have gone back to the way it was before, I did something again. The questions were like, what are we interested in learning or something like this? And of course, because I'm always trying to find some grant money, I put, you hear that? And so I put up again that I was looking for a grant writer, or how to learn to write grants. Is there a class? Is there a course? These kinds of things. And once again, I didn't get an answer to that question. But what I did get was another Bible verse. Anyway, so that's what had happened. And it's because of things like that, when I say I am lonely and I don't have a community in that way, I just don't. So I'm like learning things on my own, dolo. I'm not resentful or anything. It just is what it is. It's also really interesting, fam. I'm gonna move over here to my table because I'm having breakfast and I may have to switch my phone. And also, I was talking to someone who had started or tried to start something for Black women, and she had mentioned and reminded me, because I was there for it, how lonely it was, how difficult it was. And they had 2 women, and I was mentioned, and another person was mentioned, that if we weren't around, they would have folded a long time ago because it was so difficult. We tried to take up some of the slack for them by doing certain tasks, because it was supposed to be like a joint thing, but it was difficult, and so it disbanded. It went on hiatus. So I'm glad that when she mentioned that, I was like, yeah, it is. She was like, bitch, it is lonely. I was like, yeah, it is. But anyway, getting back to the group. So I am still a part of that group. They don't really talk about much in giving suggestions and things like that. And most of the leads, when it comes to grants, like that kind of a thing, it's like business loans. And I'm not trying to take out a business loan. That's why I'm applying for grants. And so I joined another Facebook group that is for nonprofits and grant writers. And I'm learning some things from that. But it is all a matter of having the time to really focus on one thing. And that's what my whole thing about my break is about, to really figure out to do one task or maybe 2 tasks and be able to really focus on that. So I've got to get on that because my money's running out. My grant money is running out. And I don't know when we're going to get any more. Maybe me taking this reflecting break, a grant writer or an opportunity for some funds may come my way. We'll see. The universe is funny. Sometimes things have to end and then things are built. I am on my break. As you can see, I'm like in my kitchen having breakfast. I may have some more reflections while I'm on this break of reflecting about BLX and my process. And I really hope this may help somebody else who may be struggling as well. It always feels good when you have someone, or you come across something and you realize, hey, I'm not alone, or something comes across your path and you're like, that's right. Oh, speaking of which, I'm not done. The other day, while I was reflecting after the Sapphic Garden lunch, which was fantastic, after that I was like in a reflective mood, and I was sitting in front of my meditation table and my phone kept making this noise, which was strange because I usually turn my phone off. Obviously I didn't. I obviously messed up that whole thing, but my phone kept making this noise and I just couldn't focus. I couldn't get back into it because I kept hearing this noise. I went and I picked up the phone to turn off and up popped this other podcast. And this is a podcast that I had joined like a long time ago and didn't really pay any attention or follow up with it. I wish I could read what it was about, because I was thinking maybe I don't need this break of reflecting. Maybe I'm wrong and I should wait until another time. And you know what? I'm not going to talk about this now. I'll do a little video on it later on when I can really delve into the ideas. I'm going to come back later on with some other reflecting about the podcast that I was mentioning. I hope you all have a really great day. Until next time, take care of yourself.